Good morning, this is Steve here in Sydney on the lay gnosis website truebluehealer.com. I've got something to show you I found on the Australian television, and it was a little inquiry that reveals something that we can put into the puzzling picture of cyberbullying. It's one more piece to the puzzle, if you can pardon my alliteration. It's a surprise finding, yet you'll realise immediately afterwards when you look at your own children perhaps that it's not so surprising. And it answers the question, this is an Australian news item, and it answers the question, why do some people get cyberbullied so badly, yet without saying a word, they're cyberbullied so badly they quietly go off and hang themselves? Why do they actually do this? Why don't they tell somebody? Why don't they switch their electronics off? Just turn it all off for 3 weeks. Yet none of these obvious things occur to them. And the Australian news item, which is kind of fascinating, explains just why they make this terrible mistake. Here it is for you.
Victims of cyberbullying are refusing to tell their parents because they fear their iPads and iPhones will be confiscated. A new study has found bullied young people are instead suffering in silence.
The Bully Zero Australia Foundation is spreading the message that social media can be deadly.
In the wrong hands, we say these things could be weapons of mass destruction.
It's feared 1 in every 5 Australians is bullied online.
If someone's bothering me, I'll just report it or I'll block it as well. Just delete it and block the person and ignore it.
But many victims are refusing to tell their parents about cyberbullying, fearing their computers and phones will be taken away.
We're finding that kids now need to be connected 24/7, to the extent where there are in fact some kids sleeping with their mobile phones, they're sleeping with their iPads and iPods.
The study of 120 families discovered a large gap exists between how parents and their children view the internet and how it works.
Really, you can only keep an eye on it. But other than that, it's really hard, isn't it?
The study found that no matter how tech-savvy some parents were, many were still unaware of how to monitor their children's online life. The Bully Zero Foundation suggests parents review their child's internet history, don't allow secret passwords, install filtering software, and be friends on Facebook and follow their child on Twitter. It also says the most effective way to reduce the chances of cyberbullying is to discuss internet use with your children.
Communication is the key, and if you've got good communication with your children, you should be okay.
The Bully Zero Foundation will hold a 48-hour digital detox next month. More details are on our website. Karen O'Sullivan, 7 News.
So there you have it. It's a young person's overinvestment in the electronic thrills available today. And we'll point out that this is the first generation that's grown up with computers since childhood, since babyhood. 3 and 4-year-old babies now play with computer games. They're utterly entranced by them. The problem seems to be it's their whole life. It's a cornerstone of their life. They are utterly possessed by it and supported by it and live by it. So they can't imagine living without it. I assume when they commit suicide they think they're going to go to cyber heaven or something, where there's no trolls or something. I really can't figure out what their logic is. But it's certainly very faulty logic when it doesn't occur to you to turn the damn thing off and or talk to somebody, share it with somebody else, because conversation with another person can be remarkably therapeutic in showing you other positions and takes on things, which can be literally lifesavers. However, this does touch on this thing about bullying. It leads to another grand scale bullying. We live in a bullying society where I've got another clip for you coming. We live in a narcissistic one-upmanship society, which is a technical term for bullying. We've now been told by Canadian researchers that a percentage of people are just naturally made physical brain sadists. It's the way they're programmed. They enjoy the discomfort, the pain of other people. They go out of their way to achieve that by bullying you anonymously. Now, that doesn't seem too bad. We've always done it since we were in the caves. But there's a problem. An aspect of bullying is that you can't do it by yourself. You've got to have a partner that you can parasite. You've got to have someone you can put your hatchet into repeatedly, gouge your claws into repeatedly. So sadism is a parasitic thing where it requires partners, and as soon as people get onto you on the internet, trolls generally have to find someone else they can get their meat hooks into to bleed them for a while, because most people just block and delete them, which is about the best thing to do with trolls anyway. That's the normal ones you meet on the internet out of the James Randi Educational Foundation, the so-called scientific thinkers forever posing as scientists, but all they ever talk about is you and how pathetic you are. Constant theme of their attentions we've noticed over the years in this pseudo-skeptic channel. Parasitic relationships also occur with large bodies of people in bureaucracies and war machines. The GCHQ is an intelligence machine in Britain. It's kind of like the NSA in Britain. Created in World War I. Of course, they wrote their own history into Wikipedia, being the best trolls around. Created in World War I in a time of apparent dire need, fear of invasion. Once the careers are up and running and so much money is allocated, and they have such immense power to discredit people and do them injury, and disappear people and do all the clever tricks they do and put out fake news items in the newspapers and that sort of stuff, that the GCHQ couldn't just disband itself after World War I. They kept going, doing spy thriller stuff till the next war, where they were absolutely necessary. Echelon was something invented in World War II, where all the phone calls in the Western world were basically tapped, and it just grew and grew and grew until now it's a permanent Anglo partnership: Australia, New Zealand, UK, America. They tap all the world's phone calls in many, many languages, and you can't do a damn thing about it. You can't stop it. Now, this is an extraordinarily parasitic relationship, this narcissistic bullying thing, that they've always got to be one up on you by knowing more than you. In peacetime, intelligence groups seem to do a lot of damage. They certainly have done in this cyber age of the internet. When you think about it, the bottom line is that intelligence groups and all these large bureaucracies, they really do want a secure job for life followed by a lovely secure pension, don't they? And if you can throw in a bit of adventure and do lots of exciting illegal things, that's a very exciting career. Believe me, I actually did meet a CIA man once by accident in Sydney. Retired he was, and he literally confessed to me. He said he was exceedingly happy. He had killed hundreds of people, and he'd had the most colourful James Bond career, more real than any James Bond movie. He'd killed hundreds of people, described how to do it in graphic detail, and the highlight of his career was kidnapping North Vietnamese generals in Vietnam and tying them to a hydrogen-filled balloon so that they'd be picked up by a low-flying Hercules transport going at 120 miles an hour, snagging the balloon and picking up the North Vietnamese general. They were then taken back to torture factories using gas and electric shocks, you see. Now, I met this man who described it all to me. Very quickly, it wasn't a storyteller. This is a real man. He started off in the Australian Army. Reading between the lines of what he said, he worked in a courier service going around the world, Hercules transports flying 24 hours a day, carrying suitcases full of money, white powder, weapons, prisoners for rendition. He continued renditioning people. Renditioning was not invented in the terrorist age, it was invented in Vietnam, okay? But it just carried on. And lots of rendition people end up in Germany and Egypt and places like that, on underground prisons in secret concealed air bases and that sort of thing, with lots and lots of trees around them, such as Ramsheim in Germany. So they live a life at our expense, parasiting off us, these people. They don't want to let their James Bond lives go because it's exciting. I mean, the alternative is maybe a $300 a week factory job for the rest of your life. What kind of excitement is that? Well, it's not. It's a great lack of excitement, and you might be more interested in being some kind of legalised terrorist, which is what a lot of intelligence agencies really are. They're just legalised terrorists. And you will also find that most terrorism today aids governments. People always vote more conservatively and look to the government for help when there's terrorism. And that was the basis of Operation Gladio in Europe, done by NATO, where they were blowing up supermarkets all over Europe just to improve their popularity ratings. Governments were doing it all over the damn place, using NATO operatives, Western military operatives to do terrorism, simulated red communist attacks on Italy, that sort of thing, kidnapping of Italian generals, that sort of thing, all done by out-of-work spies, basically, out-of-work spooks. They have to do something to keep their jobs so they're not made redundant, for goodness sake. So we don't really need intelligence agencies in peacetime. They're military organisations, but they instead of making war on the foreign country during peacetime, military organisations, intelligence groups, basically make war on their own people, as far as I can tell. Certainly over the internet, war is made on us. We are the enemy, the common people, and we deserve to be controlled because they have the means to do it, with their mis and disinformation campaigns and massive resources to lie and cheat. And forever head-kicking people all over the internet who have a different opinion, basically. And now we're finding out. I've got a video here for you. It's a very good summary of the Edward Snowden revelations. Just one thing that he found was a massive, highly organised plan basically to operate the Western world according to the needs of intelligence agencies to keep the parasitic relationship going. We are all their victims. They keep the military-industrial complex going, and they want to keep it going. And it's all done in a highly organised fashion that will surprise you. And let's remember that it still connects to cyberbullying in the sense that this narcissistic one-upmanship that I'm better than you, so yeah, I've beaten you in this argument, that's a social problem we have all over the planet, where people prefer and choose to speak in conflict and try and bulldoze another person. It's actually childish playground behaviour, and we find a lot of trolls to this when they're confronted. At best, they don't say much at all, they just stonewall, because they don't know any kind of conversational pleasantries, or to suggest that with some humility that maybe they could be wrong, could have made a mistake, went too far, driving someone to suicide. The trolls generally say, no, it's their fault for misinterpreting all the obscenities I was typing at them. I was just playing a game. That's what the trolls say. I was just playing a game, and if you people interpret it realistically, it's all your fault, you see. This is the mind of a 7-year-old child blaming victims for everything they do. Nothing is their fault. It shows the lack of physical brain development in trolls generally. Now, intelligence agencies operate in this fashion right through society. The internet has been ruined. It started out as a positive glimmering of what we could be as a race of people, where we could go with our creativities and and survival of the kindest, where we could go with that, and it quickly flowered into the monster of total surveillance by intelligence networks and governments all over the world, and false flag terrorism. That's where it went. And here's a damn good description for you in this linked video, and you just click on that, it'll take you to this beautiful summary of what was discovered about GCHQ and the Anglo-speaking alliance, to basically surveil the entire planet to keep themselves employed, parasiting on us, the average people. So here it is. I'll see you afterwards.
If you're a regular internet user, you've probably perused a message board or comment section of a website and wondered why so many people write inflammatory, horrible, and downright insane diatribes. After all, in real life, most people don't communicate with each other through racist, homophobic, and nasty insults. So is it merely anonymity leading to this type of vitriol on the internet, or is something else at play? Well, thanks to a newly released Edward Snowden document by journalist Glenn Greenwald, we now know some of these comments probably aren't coming from members of the general public at all. In an article titled, "How Covert Agents Infiltrate the Internet to Manipulate, Deceive, and Destroy Reputations," Greenwald outlines how intelligence agencies use online troll tactics to influence real-world outcomes. The documents were obtained by Greenwald from the UK's NSA counterpart, GCHQ, and its uber-secretive Joint Threat Research Intelligence Group unit, or JTRIG. See, JTRIG's mission is to destroy the reputation of specific targets by both releasing false and damning information about them and manipulating cyber conversations to affect public perception. And this program goes way beyond just posting nasty comments, guys. According to the top secret slides, which were shared with intelligence agencies in the US, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand, JTRIG employs tactics such as honey trapping, where online affairs are created for blackmail purposes, changing the target's photos on social networking sites, writing blogs pretending to be a victim of the target, and even emailing and texting incriminatory messages to the target's friends and colleagues. But JTRIG doesn't just stop at sabotaging specific individuals online. The unit also employs tactics for taking down entire companies. These tactics include leaking confidential business information to other corporations or the press, posting negative information on online forums, and getting involved in business deals to ruin relationships. And just in case JTRIG's agents are still confused about what their mission exactly is, another site explicitly states that the whole purpose of the program is, quote, using online techniques to make something happen in the real or cyber world. All of this is summed up in the catchy slogan of the 4 Ds: deny, disrupt, degrade, and deceive. How cute. This type of behavior by intelligence agencies has been long suspected by some journalists and technophiles, but as usual, those concerns were generally dismissed as conspiracy theory nonsense. But in reality, the signs were everywhere. As Greenwald points out, as far back as 2008, Cass Sunstein, Obama's advisor and former head of the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs, proposed the U.S. government use independent advocates to, quote, cognitively infiltrate online groups, websites, and activist groups. He even suggested agents go into chat rooms and social networks to spread false and destructive government conspiracies. Well, it just so happens the very same Cass Sunstein was recently appointed to the White House's NSA review panel. You know, the one proposed to token NSA reforms that were almost entirely ignored by Obama. Not to mention that in 2011, the U.S. military admitted to having developed software that allows one individual to control up to 10 separate online fake personalities, also called sock puppets. And when it comes to these type of tactics, other countries haven't even been secretive about their intentions to manipulate cyber information. According to Electronic Intifada, in 2012, the National Union of Israeli Studies partnered with Israel's government to offer students $2,000 to spread state propaganda on online social websites like Facebook. According to the documents obtained by the website, the program is an opportunity for Israeli students to, quote, provide Hasbara, the Hebrew word for state propaganda, that is correct and balanced to help in the struggle against the delegitimization of the state of Israel and a hatred of Jews in the world. Yes, because paying naive students to promote your official government message is a healthy part of any open society. But I will admit that there's another side of the coin which I recently experienced firsthand after talking about countries and corporate powers that profited from Nazi Germany and the Holocaust. The racist, anti-Semitic, and neo-Nazi comments flooded my YouTube and social media sites in uniform, honestly making me wonder if the effort was part of a larger coordinated campaign to discredit this show. And unfortunately, it's not just countries that are responsible for contributing to the growth of toxic online dialogue. It's corporations, too. As revealed in Breaking the Set by investigative journalist Dar Jamal, BP used PR firm Ogilvy and Mather to hire online trolls to attack and bully individuals who complain about the company's response to the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. And we'd have to be naive to think that most multinational corporations aren't copying this exact technique of controlling their online image. After all, that's just 21st century PR. So, for every Machiavellian narcissist acting alone to dumb down and distort information, you might as well hunker down in your troll cave and get on the government and corporate payroll.
So there you have it, a very good, very eloquent description of the narcissistic bullying one-upmanship that has grown into great parasitic intelligence agencies constructing the surveillance state around us. The extent of it only revealed by Snowden recently, and that's just one document. By the way, it's linked below this video. That's just one document out of the Snowden archive. There's a whole lot of other stuff going on that you haven't got time to even read or look at. So people are working on it, but you're only likely to ever see the tip of the iceberg. And I do think this narcissism, this always going one step further than your opponent to declare yourself the winner, is really a failure of human personality in many, many people, certainly undeveloped, immature people. And competition going like this to the extreme, unfettered, unbridled, results in obscenities like the Pentagon wanting to weaponize every molecule in the Earth's biosphere. They call it full spectrum dominance. And they've got to be one step ahead of the Russians or any potential enemies or any domestic enemies too. So entire states of America could be starved out of rainfall, for example, with weather control if they become too rebellious, threatening secession, for example, right? So it's really a sexual desire to control other people. Narcissism is a sexual thing, I'm sorry to say. Sex and power seem to go together. That's why pedophilia rings infest so many governments. They are power seekers for sexual reasons in many, many cases. Okay, I will leave you now.